She said, I lost my father. We knew that she didn't lose our dad. She iced our father.
I think the palace and the machinery of the monarchy needs to take Harry and Meghan more seriously and make sure that
this scandal comes as no surprise. Speculation about the children has been simmering for...
What if the royal fairy tale wasn't a story of love conquering tradition, but a script crafted with precision, edited for optics and polished until it gleamed under the palace lights? What if the Duchess, who was hailed as a symbol of modern reinvention, had been living a life less authentic and more theatrical?
I do believe because there are no delivery certificates.
A role rehearsed until the audience believed it was reality. For Meghan Markle, those whispers are no longer whispers. They've turned into accusations, detonations that shake the very stage she built. And at the center of it all stands her half-sister, Samantha Markle.
Harry and Meghan's antics don't impact the future.
So all of the pictures, my point is, out there were inconsistent.
Delivering revelations that slice through the glossy facade like glass shattering in silence. From the moment Meghan entered the royal orbit, her story was sold as one of triumph.
With the idea of a real pregnancy.
A biracial American actress who dared to marry into one of the most rigid institutions in the world, rewriting rules and reshaping centuries of tradition. She cast herself as the outsider who fought her way inside. The woman who grew up alone, yearning for siblings she never had. The woman who conquered stigma and became the modern Duchess. But Samantha tells a very different story. According to her, Meghan's rise wasn't just improbable, it was...
And I thought, what is she not contextually aware? She's trying to hide something. This is really sloppy pool.
Engineered. She calls her sister's narrative not resilience, but reinvention. Not truth, but theater. Not a fairy tale, but a fraud. And when Samantha speaks, it isn't the voice of a jealous sibling lurking in the shadows. It's the voice of someone determined to burn the script to ashes and expose what she calls the truth. It begins with the simplest of claims: family.
And when you're pregnant, there's not a pillow under your skirt, and there's live footage of her walk.
Meghan once told the world she grew up as an only child, longing for the siblings she never had. It was a detail meant to make her seem isolated, self-made, the underdog whose only allies were her ambition and determination. Yet Samantha, standing as her half-sister, looked at that statement and saw not just omission, but erasure.
Towards camera with her abdomen swaying left to right in a black and white checkered dress.
She didn't lose our father, Samantha said. She iced our father. To Samantha, Meghan wasn't shaping her identity. She was amputating it, cutting away inconvenient roots and rewriting the past like a Hollywood script. But if this was only about family feuds, it would have stayed in the tabloids, another chapter in a never-ending saga of celebrity drama. What makes it explosive is that the accusations go far beyond bitterness.
It was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump. The fact is, Harry and Meghan...
They strike at the core of Meghan's royal identity, her motherhood. Because Samantha isn't alone in questioning whether Meghan's story was real. Enter a woman known only as DL, whose testimony threatens to unravel everything. Unlike the vague whispers of conspiracy forums, DL arrived armed with specifics.
Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie.
Hospital bills, medical records, signed agreements buried in secrecy. Her claim is nothing short of earth-shaking, that she was the surrogate behind Meghan's pregnancies, erased from her own story so the Duchess could play the part of glowing royal mother. If DL's allegations are true,
a royal physician was not allowed to examine her womb. I mean, I don't know about anybody.
The world wasn't watching Meghan embrace the sacred role of royal motherhood. It was watching a performance, staged with the precision of a blockbuster film. Meghan, dressed in designer coats, cradling a bump for cameras, while DL, alone and isolated, bore the real weight of the airs in silence. It wasn't tradition, it was illusion.
Else, but if I were pregnant with a royal child, you would want that child in the best.
At first glance, it might sound too outlandish, too sensational. But then come the details. DL doesn't just claim betrayal. She describes recruitment meetings in California, contracts signed in back rooms, and months of secrecy that felt less like privacy and more like imprisonment. She describes postpartum complications, mounting medical bills, and the crushing reality of being silenced while another woman stepped into the spotlight, celebrated as a symbol of empowerment. If even fragments of DL's testimony hold weight,
care of the best medical practitioners that money could buy.
Then Meghan's rebellion against royal convention wasn't bold. It was deceitful. Not a challenge to outdated rituals, but an exploitation of illusion. And here lies the heart of the crisis. Royal births aren't just private family milestones. They're constitutional events, matters of lineage and legitimacy that stretch back centuries. When Diana stepped out of St. Mary's Hospital, baby in arms, it wasn't just a photo op. It was proof. A confirmation that the heir existed, that the tradition remained intact. Kate Middleton followed the same path 3 times, each appearance a ritual of continuity. Meghan, however, broke the script. No hospital steps. No clarity on where or when the births occurred. Just silence, staged photos, and a trail of inconsistencies. And where there are gaps, suspicion grows. Videos of her belly seemingly folding as she bends fueled speculation. Timelines failed to add up. Photos raised more questions than answers. What Meghan and Harry framed as privacy looked to critics like evasion. And in monarchy, evasion can be more dangerous than scandal, because if DL's claims are true, the implications stretch far beyond reputation. They strike at succession itself. Centuries of law and tradition dictate that heirs must be born in clear, documented circumstances. Secrecy, non-disclosure agreements, and hidden clinics don't just raise eyebrows, they raise constitutional alarms. And in the monarchy, legitimacy isn't a matter of public relations. It's the bedrock of the institution. So why, critics ask, did Meghan and Harry not confront these claims directly? Why no DNA test? Why no simple rebuttal? Why silence? Because in the court of public opinion, silence doesn't equal dignity. It breeds suspicion, and suspicion is contagious. Samantha, for her part, frames the silence not as strategy but as confession. To her, Meghan's refusal to address the storm is proof that the narrative was always an illusion. She insists her sister's story isn't resilience but propaganda, designed to cut away inconvenient truths and replace them with a Hollywood-friendly image. In Samantha's words, Meghan didn't climb into royalty. She conned her way in brick by brick until the facade stood tall enough to fool the world. But then came the legal machine. As DL's allegations gained traction, reports claim Harry and Meghan's lawyers went into overdrive, firing off warnings to media outlets, attempting to silence coverage. Yet the threats lacked the one thing that could settle everything: denial. Not once did they say, "This is false." Not once did they provide proof. And in the age of public perception, that absence became its own answer. The irony cuts deep. This is the couple who built their empire on speaking their truth, who turned confession into brand power, who cashed in on documentaries and interviews by painting themselves as the authentic voices against a rigid palace. Yet when the time came to speak the simplest truth of all, they chose silence. And in doing so, they invited the world to question everything else they've ever claimed. Polls reflected the shift. Trust waned. Public opinion, once sympathetic, began to tilt toward skepticism. What had once looked like empowerment now looked like performance. What had once felt like authenticity now felt like acting. And in the absence of clarity, Samantha's voice grew louder. Her accusations of illusion, fabrication, and manipulation echoed with newfound weight.